Well, welcome everybody to February 2nd Legislative Committee meeting. And I will now call this meeting to order at 2 o'clock. So first on the agenda will be the adoption of the agenda. I'll be looking for a motion. Councilor Lemko, thank you very much. Everybody's had a chance to go over it. Is there any additions to the agenda? No additions, no deletions. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And next up is the minutes of our last ledge meeting. Looking for a motion. Councilor Barry, thank you very much. Hopefully everybody's read the minutes. Is there any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. So our first delegation today, we have the president and the vice president of the Junior B Rangers Hockey Club. So Sandra, if you'd let them in. Hello, Sam. That's what it says on my screen, Joe. So
is that what it says, Sam?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's Joe. Sorry to disappoint you.
No problem. Elaine, how you doing?
Mr. Stefan, you are muted.
Thanks for pointing that out. I just jumped off a webinar, so.
You're a pro at this. Not
really. I didn't turn on the mic.
Well, there's a lot of expectations there, Elaine. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, what can you gentlemen tell us about the future of the Vegreville Rangers Junior B Hockey Club?
We are going to take another sabbatical for the 21-22 season. Can you guys all hear me?
Yep.
We need to readdress our coach and manager situation. Had no success this winter trying to recruit somebody to come in and do that job, and it's been a bad point with us for the last 4 or 5 years with all the staff. They just seem to have a weakness at recruiting, and I don't know if it's because of our area, because of minor hockey, but this year was even tougher with the COVID and not being able to look at players. We had a few coaches on the list that we interviewed. Nobody wants to commit. So for now, we're just going to bow out for this season. We're going to stay involved in the community. We're going to still actively pursue a coach manager. And maybe in the 22-23 season, we can come back. Can't guarantee it, but we're sure going to try it.
So you obviously had your board meeting and this is what the decision was. And is the decision to try to come back in the Northeast Junior B League again, or?
Well, that's a bone of contention too, because the league is kind of on life support too right now. There's a couple other franchises that are in the same situation we're in. We can't seem to get any correspondence back from the president of the league. We've tried a little bit and everybody's kind of mum. He disappeared with the shutdown. So I'm not sure what they know what their future is either. We understand there's a couple teams that are, or towns that are looking maybe to join the WSHL, maybe, but that's the talk right now. We hear that there's maybe a central league forming, a different type of like a Junior B league, but maybe like a little bit higher caliber than what we had in Northeast League. So there's lots of things in the air. Lots of guys are talking, but nobody can commit. That's the whole thing until we get closer to the fall, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think we've, sorry, Tim.
Councilor Worrell, I had a question there.
Joe, would you be able to tell us, as far as when it comes to Junior Bs, we've talked before about different leagues and different levels where they have the opportunity for international play. Is there such thing as a league with Junior B that allows for international players?
Not that I'm aware of, Tina.
No, there isn't.
Okay, perfect. I just wondered that because I know that's something at some other levels there is, and I just wanted to know if that's an opportunity at this level. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Lane. You were.
I was just gonna add, you guys, and Joe knows this too, and maybe in your days, Tim, but we've tried to get into the city league.
Yeah,
Because years ago, way back, we drew players from like north of the city, Morinville, that type area. All those guys go to the city now. Morinville, in fact, has their own team. So that draw's not there. Years ago, Smoky Lake always fed players, Viking, Two Hills, and that's totally dried up. There's nobody there. And then local talent, our midget teams are less and less. And there's one or two that could play at this level, not many. So it's just a strain to you've got to have a pretty good core. Pull them in with some recruits these other guys can, and it's tough slugging now.
yeah, that city league are just on the edge of the city. I know the first 2 years that I was coaching with the Junior Bees, we played our exhibition games in that league to see how we fit, and we did very well. We had a very good team. You know, we ended up the first year we were the league overall first place in the league and stuff, but we fit very well in that league. But we were bringing a lot of players that were playing AAA and stuff that just finished AAA that came with us too, right? So you guys don't have that. It would make sense. That league does make sense travel wise and stuff for Vegreville, but
I just want to make a note. We tried to talk to the Junior C League in Edmonton, and they would not have any part of us. They did not want to travel further than, I don't know. I mean, they go to Wetaskiwin, so if you're going from St. Albert to Wetaskiwin, you might as well come to Vegreville, but they want no part of that.
oh, that's too bad.
Yep.
Well, if you can keep your core group of volunteers, and I guess you'll lose a few parents because just the kids will age out, and I always worry that we're going to lose a whole development year of bantams here that are just not going to be ready to take that step into playing in a good midget program, and that's where you usually lose quite a few players already is in bantam. So
Right.
And then I mean, there is local players playing AAA and AA in Fort Saskatchewan and stuff, but they tend to get sucked into the city too. And if we could get those guys back and entice them somehow, that will help for sure. But that's not, most of those players are 2 to 3 years away. There's none that are 16, 17-year-old that can jump into Junior B. So that doesn't really help us in that regard. And some of these other towns like Wainwright and Lloyd and even Killam, they have that pipeline from obviously Lloyd and Camrose and Wainwright themselves, so they just pull them up. They keep pulling them up, and we don't have that program. I mean, they tried a AA program years ago, it didn't succeed, and that's the disadvantage we have of some of those centers. But they're even struggling. I know Lloyd has. So Joe said the whole Junior B league is having a rough go right now.
well, I guess you'll reassess it this time next year or in the summer and see where you guys are going to be at. And I know that we've been approached by that junior league to have a team here, and you know, it is what it is. We have to do some research and just see how those other teams are doing in that league too. You know, with how other municipalities are dealing with those other teams as well. So.
Oh, for sure. I've had Brian's been on my case here a little bit too to try to join with us, but it doesn't work for us. And when you're a for-profit versus nonprofit, we've got some funds and we think we could use them better in the community or trying to do recruiting again for ourselves, right? So we'll let him fly by himself. And I think for us, it's prudent to stay out of that right now and just sit back and watch and see what happens. And we'll try to do our best to rebuild. That's our goal. That's been our mandate. You know, it's just been, we need to find the right people, and that's the hard part.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, been a successful program for a long time in Vegreville and the area. I'd like hell to see it not succeed. I know these are trying times with COVID and all the restrictions, and again, you know, a whole year of young players not having the opportunity to grow and to develop it. It's going to be an even bigger setback for your program.
Yeah, for sure. And even that junior A team, he's gonna have a tough go recruiting too. I know he has some other parameters like Europeans and all that, but I mean, there's with COVID, it's going to be a struggle to get that all lined up. But,
Yeah.
you know, wish him luck if he proceeds.
Well, the fact that you guys haven't closed your doors is at least a positive note for us to see that. So we'll keep updated. Maybe we'll see you on a golf course someplace this summer and give you some more updates.
For sure. Look forward to it. Thanks for that.
Anybody
Yeah, I
else
think-
have any questions of either of the gentlemen?
Just one more comment. And review this on a constant basis. Just, you know, we're not going to, forget about it for a year and then come back. We're going to be reviewing it constantly and see how COVID plays out and all that. So we're definitely, like Joe says, we're going to stay active in the community.
Well, and just so you guys know that the council, we operate year round. So anything that you got moving forward or anything, or make sure you drop us a line, send something notice to us and, keep us up to date.
You bet.
Okay, thank you both and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.
Yep, you bet. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that went fairly. Sad thing to see that happening right now, that COVID shutting down minor hockey and then the junior Bs not being able to, to be able to operate this coming year. Well, we'll just stay tuned, I guess, and hopefully just things will turn a little bit more positive for them. Okay, so up next, who's doing their request from the, what's the name of that committee, Councillor Waters?
Something like do.
You haven't come up with an acronym yet.
Not yet, but I do believe, sorry, Mayor McPhee, there's one more item before that one.
Oh, I'm not seeing it.
6.1.
Your Worship, it was junior hockey discussion. We put this in case council wanted to have an open discussion now that they've heard both presentations.
Well, I don't know if I'm ready to have a discussion personally, just knowing. I put my thoughts together on this. I mean, we just found out they're taking a year off. So I don't know exactly how I feel. Does anybody else have any comments, or does anybody want to go into a full discussion right now regarding? It would be a big commitment to make a decision right now, I would say, but. Councillor Brodziak.
I was just wondering, what was the date that they wanted a reply back by Brian with his hockey league? I can't remember what their final date was for a reply.
I'm not really sure. Myself personally, I know that we told them that we were going to wait till we hear from the junior Bs, and then we were going to have some discussions. Councillor Lemko.
Yes, and the other group that came in with the Ukrainian contingent with the same league, there was no date. There was just a request for us to consider having a franchise in Vegreville. So I'd like to put all that together and have a discussion at a later date, like maybe next meeting or such, but
Sure.
get our heads around it and see what we want to do as a group.
Yeah, and myself personally, I was going to seek a little more information regarding the other league. We haven't heard back from the other municipalities about their experience. I know I've talked to two different mayors in Hinton and Edson, and they had limited success there, and they weren't saying anything negative. I know we were thinking about talking to Coal Lake again. And Phil, do you remember, did Slave Lake get the team? I can't remember what Brian said now. Or Mr. Lemko? Council
The
Lemko?
Slave Lake team ended up being the Barhead Bombers team.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was, yeah.
The Bombers, and so I would probably put a call out to Barhead,
Yeah.
out to the mayor there and find out how that franchise is working. Ukrainian contingent, the coach Sergey, I believe is his name. He was with the Barhead as an assistant coach. So that's where he's coming from. So we need more information before we can make any kind of a decision personally.
Sure, it's, Counselor Warwa, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, and I agree. I'd like to have a further discussion on this. I just, one of the things though, that this is my take on it, I just want to share it with you, is I have no problem us talking to other communities, but I don't know if it's really for us to massively overly decide whether we want them or we don't want them. My thought is what we have to decide is, are we putting any liability or financial burden on the community? So, you know, if we have concerns as far as ICE, there are simple fixes around it. We can set any contract we want with any group that's contracting our ICE. We can require 2 months in advance. They can tell us how much ICE they are. We'd be able to work out how many practices they're looking at, and we could have a 2-month pre-ICE payment and then monthly fees. I'm not saying yay or nay whether I'm in support. I definitely want a bigger talk, but I just don't necessarily think that we have to go down the route of deciding if a business coming in is a good business. We only have to look at what would it be costing us? Is there an ask, and are we willing to put that up? And as far as the ICE fees, I mean, if I charge somebody 2 months in advance as part of my agreement, and then said they have to pay every month by the 30th, or you don't get access to ICE, then we're not putting our community in liability. So I just don't want to see us chasing too much farther to figure out the intentions or the who might be when we don't do that with other businesses. We figure out if they fall in the category and whether or not they would cost us anything financially.
Okay, thank you for that. And yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Councillor Lemko.
Sorry, in the same breath, one of their asks was that we provide them with a dressing room facility to meet their needs. And then there was also billeting and that kind of stuff for their community. So certainly it's a discussion we need to really ponder and think appropriately, because I don't know how much tax dollars are needed to put into expanding a dressing room at this point. So I think there's more to be discussed.
If we're going to have a further discussion on that, Phil, could we request that, because I need to know as part of the discussion, I know they talked about what they would like, but would they be willing to accept the dressing room as is, just with one being dedicated to them? Would they be willing to do that on a trial year? That would be some of what I'd need to know, because that also impacts whether or not we have a financial stake in it as well.
Yeah, and then there's also the question of advertising and how that would work for them to raise money and within our arena, or they just do it on their own jerseys. So I think we'd have a broader conversation amongst ourselves first about which direction we're leaning, and then the questions we would ask, have them answered, and then we'd have all the information we would need. So we'll need to have some time to set aside for this, Cliff. We'll get a little more information, and then we'll need to set aside some time and focus just on this question moving forward. So if you have any questions you need answered, please send them to Phil. And Phil will do a little research and have them for when we're ready for our overall discussion. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. You were right, Councillor Waters. There was something in front of that. So now we'll hear from the Vegreville Region Physician and Health Professional Attraction Retention Committee. Someone's got to come up with a better acronym for that than what we're using.
We need to do another contest.
I'll read this, Your Worship.
Sure.
I call it Verf Park. This is a letter from the Vegreville Region Physician and Health Professionals Attraction and Retention Committee to Mayor McPhee and Town Council. Dear Mr. McPhee, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Council for their financial support of our committee in recent years. Your support has been invaluable to us to continue to recruit new physicians in our community. Our committee has been very financially prudent with the dollars we have received. For your review and information, we provided a copy of our 5-year projected budget. We're asking the town for a 3 to 5 year commitment of $5,000 per year. Our goal is to continue to look ahead of future needs for our community, for doctors and health professionals, to ensure needs are addressed. We thank you for your continued support. Yours truly, the committee, signed by Renee Senko, the treasurer. And they have attached their 5-year budget.
Okay, so we'll be looking, have some discussion on this, and we'll bring this back to the regular council meeting, but what's everybody's thoughts? Okay. Councilor Riddick.
Well, this hasn't come before council for a while, but I think we're all very familiar with this topic. Whether you got elected last term or 3 terms ago, this is an omnipresent issue. Access to a physician close to home is something that we recognize as important, and the continued efforts to continue to recruit and retain our physicians is paramount. This is also morphed into a larger group, including health professionals, and I think this is a way for us to support the community to ensure that they in turn are able to continue to grow their practice, whether it's physicians or other health practitioners. So I would suggest that this is something that we would support ongoing. And in light of the chamber resolution that was put forward as well, that the access to health professionals close to home is a very real part of making sure that we grow our rural communities and support them.
Okay, Councilor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll start out with saying Shakespeare would say a committee by any other name would still be a great committee. I think this group has proven itself, and I would certainly believe that continuing to support it would be in our best interest for the community. Maintaining good health care professionals is really important to us. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Brajak.
Just reviewing their budget, and it looks like a very modest budget for the next 5 years. I would definitely support this and echo both Councillor Barry's and Councillor Rudick's sentiments.
Okay, well, Councilor Worla.
Yeah, I just, the only thing I wanted to add to it, I agree as well. The only thing I want to add is just, we're hearing from other communities how hard a struggle they're having to retain physicians, and we've done a very, very, good job and seen, I think we're in a much better position in our community than a lot have. So anything we can do to give that support, I think, is really important, especially when we're seeing other communities of similar size really struggling.
Yeah. I know I was on a Zoom meeting last week with Minister Shandro and some local doctors, the chamber from Ponoka, some doctors, MLAs, mayors, and just trying to convince, the Ministry of Health, the difference in recruiting and keeping doctors in rural Alberta and how tough it is. So, I mean, we've had a lot of positive results out of this committee, and I don't know why we wouldn't keep supporting it. So we'll see this on the next council meeting, and everybody wait for then, I guess, then we'll have a decision on it. Okay, thank you. Next up, Mr. Dale Lefebvre.
Thank you, Worship. This is a bylaw that will move to have the road closed so that we can sail the land. This is the proposal made by Regas. This is here just for information to let you know where we're at with it. We're not approving this bylaw today or at the next council meeting. The bylaw has been created. We've already received the description of the road closure that is acceptable to Alberta Land Titles and to the town. So we've received that from the Regas. We have that in our office now. So we've drafted up the bylaw. As of tomorrow, we'll be sending out the information, the notices to ATCO Gas, ATCO Electric, TELUS, Alberta Transportation, Alberta Sustainable Resources and Development. Then on February 10th and 17th, we'll advertise for our 2 consecutive weeks. March 8th, we hold a public hearing. And then we have first reading if there's nothing at the public hearing. Then March 9th, we'd send that information to the Minister of Transportation for his approval. And then when that's completed, we will come back and do second, third reading. That puts the title to the town of the road closure, and then we can make the transfer of sale to the Regas. It is a little different than what we normally do. We normally have first reading first, then go through the advertising, and then have a public hearing, and then wrap up second, third reading. But for road closure, this is the process that we're to follow according to our website, alberta.ca website that we're following. So
I was kind of wondering what's the difference, but found another playbook, I guess, and we're going to try it differently.
Well, the last road closure we did was about 5 years ago, and it was done in a similar fashion. So we just haven't done this is specific to road closure.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions of Dale regarding this matter? Okay, thanks, Dale. Next up, Mr. Paul Casey.
Thank you, Your Worship. The schedule that is provided is a summary of what we believe is the impact of COVID-19 to the town. It does not include any of the deferred rent from Cromtech in it. At this point, we did include the canceled rent for the first 3 months because that's actually lost rent, whereas the deferred rent is not yet lost. So we're looking at, we also looked at only the change in the deficit, because in a lot of instances, if we looked at the change in revenue, it's a lot higher, but those specific departments actually had savings, so that the change in the deficit is more appropriate. So for example, the Aquatic Center had a reduction in revenue of $129,000, but they also just in wages saved almost $86,000, and their net deficit change was only $29,355. So that's, in our opinion, the most appropriate number to look at. So that comes to a total of $242,692 for those departments. And then there were some direct costs that were allocated to other departments, but didn't really impact their deficit. But we still have to account for those direct costs. So that's another just over $50,000 of direct costs. So we're anticipating that for 2020, we're looking at about $293,518 of cost related to COVID-19 out of the $582,906 that's being allocated to us from the government, which will leave us about $289,500 to carry forward to next year to apply to the projects that we have.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Councilor Rudick, we'll start with you.
Thank you for compiling this. I'm happy to see that this is in the intention of getting grant funding to be able to cover some of these losses. And I wonder, as you were compiling this list, and maybe you don't have an immediate answer for this, are there other impacts that you can see that maybe should be captured as we do a retrospective or in lifetime analysis of what kind of impacts our community has faced as it relates to COVID? So I know that this is specifically talking about the impacts financially for this grant purposes, but I'm thinking about potentially the loss of staffing or increased or decreased maintenance that wouldn't necessarily be a cost in either a deficit or a revenue situation, as well as the downstream costs potentially borne by other businesses where we won't source so much of project or product X or whatever. So just a more global picture. Are there other things that you thought that should have been captured, maybe not in this format, but in another way, impacts to the community from COVID?
I never got that global discussion. I mean, there is also what's not included in here is the operations of the library, because the library was also impacted. We included the facility rental rental that they would have used for the gym and the boardrooms, but we did not include the library because the library is operated outside of the town. I know the library has at one point suggested that maybe we could include them. But one of the reasons that I didn't include them in this list is, well, two of the reasons. One, they operate outside the town with their own budget. And two, I was trying to make sure that we have the money that we need for the projects that we're doing right now, which we've started already, which are the renovation projects.
Thank you for that. And I realize that mine is sort of a bigger picture capture, and I appreciate this is a very specific question that you're answering for us.
Okay, so when we first seen the funding that was coming on this most funding, we thought, oh my God, we probably won't have anything like that. Well, if you look at it, where we're at and the forced situation we were in to renovate council chambers and put some distancing in between us and all the other losses in every department and facilities, it sure didn't take long to add up. Councilor Barry.
Yes, I was kind of quite surprised about just how far it did add up. It shows a shortfall. Is there any hope that maybe that can be picked up and covered at some point as well?
Well, the shortfall is basically a result of writing off the Cromtech rent, which was not changes come in less than expected, then that would be covered. Otherwise, we would probably have to take it out of reserve because we haven't budgeted for that extra expenditure. So.
Okay, so Mr. Paul Casey, this is just an update where we're at with this is what we're looking at here right now, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
This money will all has to be accounted for by the end of March.
Yep. And it looks like that and then some will be accounted for. So if everything else can stay on the renovations, everything can stay on the money, we should be okay. We'll have to make a decision how we're going to finance the other 30 though.
Correct.
Okay, any more questions for Paul? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up, Mr. Cliff Clegg, Town Manager.
Good afternoon, everyone. The first item under my area is VTSS Council Board Representative, I'm sorry. And this was after or pursuant to the delegation that we had at the Town Council meeting. And there were two options discussed, one being an ad hoc committee, and then the second was a council appointment. Typically what we have done in the past for other external agencies is have them send a request into the town asking for a council member appointment. And recently we had CALS and the hospital board as examples. So if you like, I could follow up with VTSS and have a letter sent in if that's what their desire is as well.
I think that's what we should do, just to confirm that they're still looking for a council member on their board. So, Councilor Barry.
I think during our meeting, they certainly were expressing that would be their interest is having the council member on their board. But for a paper trail, I would agree that maybe we should request them to put it in writing.
Okay.
Okay, what do you got next?
The next two items are to do with the local jurisdiction elections in October. And for many years, the town has worked jointly with both Elk Island Public and Elk Island Catholic school boards, and where we've operated their elections, and it's on a cost shared basis. So we do enter into an agreement with each of the school boards. The letters included in the agenda here are requests from both school boards asking if the town would operate their elections within Vegreville for them in October. So these are for information at this point. We do require council motions if we are going to enter into agreements, but just for some new members on council, it has worked very well in the past. This way, we recoup some of the costs of the election, and it's just much more efficient as well for the school boards.
Okay, so it's a fee for service that we charge for this.
Correct. There's a cost ratio that's set out for, there's some items that they pay 100% for, and then some items that is cost shared.
So we'll see this at the next council meeting for approval?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions for Cliff right now? Okay. Keep going, Cliff. You got a few more, I see.
Okay. The next one is the naming of Southeast 17 Industrial Park. So Sandra and I have been working on this, and we put together a procedure memo for you. Council's interested in having public participation in the naming of Southeast 17 Agri-Food Industrial Park. This type of public participation was popular and effective in the naming of our Foxview Estates residential area. So looking at following the same guidelines that were used previously, we're proposing the following. Advertising: as soon as the contest is advertised, we need to be prepared to start taking entries. So we are looking at starting the contest on a Wednesday to coincide with newspaper advertising. Contest should run for 1 month. That leaves more than enough time for entries, as most will come within the first 2 weeks. Suggested dates are February 17 to March 17. Contests will run for 2 weeks in the local paper, be a news item on the website for the full 4 weeks, weekly posts on Facebook and Twitter, with bi-weekly posts on Instagram. The use of storyboards for Facebook and Instagram periodically throughout the contest. And then also Talk of the Town contest introduction at the start of the contest, and then brief weekly mentions during the regular segments for the 4 weeks.
Good.
So the entries we have, contest entries can be sent via a submit button on the website, news story, and they'll be emailed to communications@vegreville.com. They can mail in submissions or drop them off at the town office. Entries will not be taken via social media, can close posts to comments on most social media, as this requires substantial monitoring and to make sure entries aren't missed and or quote unquote stolen. All entry submissions become the property of the town. Then when the contest closes, council can review the entries and pick their top 5, if we have that many. The top 5 can be advertised again on the town website and social media, and the public can place their votes by the same means as before. And there again, no social media voting. Entry with the most votes would be chosen as the winner. Some suggested prizes: the winning entry, a 1-year family facility pass. Maybe that would be more valuable next year or later in the year. The facility's open. Second place, $100 in chamber bucks, and third place, $50 in chamber bucks. So picture and announcement of winners will be made in all forms of media used to advertise the contest, including the newspaper. And then artwork to coincide with the advertising still requires some development, but will be consistent across all platforms.
Okay, just for clarity, the winner, can they take their family pass in 2022?
That's sure, we could do that for 2022.
Okay, so nobody phone.
Okay.
Okay, any thoughts on the rules, Councillor Barry?
I think it lays out quite nicely. I was just curious though, if more than one, if the same name is submitted more than once by different individuals, how do we determine which one gets entered? Is it the first one received?
I don't know, but I've seen this before where they use the eeny, meeny, miny, mo thing. Have you tried that? So
If the winner was declared, but 3-4 people had all submitted the same name, there'd be some questions. That's all. I was just.
You may have to save the postmark date on the envelopes.
Yeah. We would have, well, especially if the entries were submitted electronically, we would have a date and time they were submitted. If it was through the town office, we would date stamp them so we know what day they come in. And if they're mailed in, good luck on that one. We'll keep the envelope, but the majority of them aren't postmarked anymore.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. We ran into that at
tax season.
Tax season.
But you would be able to date them upon the arrival.
Yes. Yes, we would document when the entries were received.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Lemko.
Okay, in the entry form, is there a little bit of an opportunity for us to talk a little bit about the park and how it became to where it's coming today? Like about what the intent is, Agra Park or something, so that the responses come back in that flavor versus the Foxview Estates or something like that. Something along the line of agribusiness or something. Just throwing it out there. I mean, it's an opportunity for us to give some history of the development of that area and the work that went into getting it to this point.
By all means, that can be done. This was to lay out the process. We haven't designed the entry form yet. We just wanted to make sure the council was comfortable with the process that we're using.
Good, and even on the kickoff on the Talk of the Town, we can let everybody know there and have a little brief statement or two on the entry forms about the history of how this development came to be. And yeah, right on. Okay, Councilor Rudy. You're still muted.
Sorry. I think this looks good. The other area of town that we are marketing and hoping will be settled in short order, but has been a longer development than we would have thought, is the 75th Street Industrial Park. So I wonder if we're naming one, maybe we name the other simultaneously, and the story would be important there. Like Councillor Lemko said, maybe a backstory would be relevant for both, but if we've got two significant developments that we're trying to market, do we want both of them to be named, or we want to focus just on Southeast 17? Because it's they're both identified currently by their land location, not anything other.
Are they zoned exactly the same type of development, or is one more commercial and the other more industrial? Dale?
Yeah, one's more commercial and Southeast 17 is definitely more industrial.
Does this mean we'd have to give away 2 passes?
Yeah, my thought is to keep them separate, and we could either later in the year or even next year do a contest for 75th Street.
Okay. Okay. What are your guys' thoughts? Spread them out. Okay. Looks like they're spreading the contest out, so something to look forward to next year. Okay, thank you, Cliff.
Okay, thank you.
So next up is mine. So we've received some letters from the MD of Spirit River, Chamber of Commerce of Smoky Lake, and Cold Lake, the municipality, County of Mackenzie, and a letter that was written to some MLAs, a letter of support to the government of Alberta to remove some of the restrictions when it comes to small businesses and to open up restaurants and some other small businesses. Along with it came a very long report from some doctors that feel that lockdowns or shutdowns or closing certain types of businesses doesn't affect the spread of COVID, or it doesn't accomplish what the government set out to do. I'm not going to read this lengthy report to you, and if those of you that read the whole thing, good on you, because that would have been one very long evening of reading. But what I will say is that I'm glad to see that the numbers are coming down in our area, in the province, in our zone. And I'm glad that the province has recognized that they are coming down. And I'm very happy that the Premier announced that the reopening of some of these operations will solely be based on the number of patients in the hospitals. I mean, we can't expect the government to control every person's behavior, but they can make decisions based on what Alberta Health and what these health facilities can take without bursting at the seams. So I'm glad they tied it to that. I'm glad that some of our restaurants and smaller businesses in our community will have the opportunity to reopen, hopefully on the 8th. There's no doubt about it. These businesses are up against it. And I encourage everybody in town, as soon as they are open, they make an appointment or get out to support a local business. And, you know, if they're over their maximum to start, there's a lineup, come back the next day. And I was really not knowing which way our council would go about writing a letter. I know in rural Alberta, it's a lot different than what it is in the large urban areas when it comes to businesses reopening, because we don't have the amount of spread of the virus that they do there. But I think that decision's already been made for us, so we will not have to write a letter at this time. Anybody want to comment on any of this? Councillor Warwa, thank you.
I really want to mirror what you said as far as my biggest concern with all of the policies that have been announced from the province so far is sometimes that I felt that they weren't giving the clarity, and I really like their next steps being tied to actual numbers. I think that that's something that people can understand. They don't feel like you're just guessing towards it. It's tied to what numbers are. So absolutely, I agree with that. I don't know if we need to write a letter at this time, but if we did, the parts that I would like to see us pushing to our government that I still feel that that they're not doing the right thing with is some of the clarity of their announcements and making sure that their announcements are actually fair and equitable to everyone. So one of my concerns with the announcement, even of the possibility of reopening of restaurants, is I understand that unless it's changed, and sorry if it has, I've been trying to keep up with it, but they were talking about the reopening of restaurants to be for 6 people, up to 6 within your household. What we saw before, and this is a reality, I've talked to people with Shore Park and other places, they weren't able to actually make that happen because people have different driver's license, people haven't changed it. It became a rule that was announced that really wasn't enforceable. And I'd like to see us actually petition the government to look at regulations that are enforceable. The other issue that I do have is partially this was government, but partially it's media. If you look, the announcements have been about reopening of restaurants and some of the reopening of gyms, but that's just not true. That's not actually what's happening. If you actually go through the regulations, it's not reopening of gyms, it's allowing the usage of the gym for one-on-one training. So again, what we are doing is we are setting a standard, and I have no problem saying this. I hope council isn't offended by me stepping out in this way, but I want to advocate for our businesses to be treated equally and our people to be treated equally. These announcements are not treating people equally. We are saying that if you're one-on-one and you can afford to hire a trainer, you have access to different sports than everyone else is. So if we're advocating, I don't necessarily want to jump on the road of open everything up, but I would like to advocate on the run of make things fair, make things equitable, Don't put extra burden on the people trying to enforce, because these businesses are struggling already. And now you're going to ask them to enforce, technically, if they're to follow rules, you know, pulling IDs and all the rest of it. I would like to see them concentrate on that. And I'd like to see them stop making announcements that is picking winners and losers and is picking people to be able to choose what they can do based upon their finances. So I'm not happy with their announcement, other than them coming up with some category regards to where, you know, I'd like them attaching the number to actual people within the hospitals. Sorry, that's it.
That's fine. Everybody has an opinion. And Councillor Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Whether or not we write a letter, I'm not certain. I appreciate the letters that have been written, and I do believe that some of them are definitely on the mark. I also appreciate that many have concerns about relaxing restrictions and opening up businesses, recreational facilities, and you know, I understand those that are concerned for the elderly and those with underlying health issues, and mainly because I am one of them. I face perils of COVID-19, but I really believe that what's happening to our businesses is negatively impacting our community. And I really hope that they do get an opportunity to open up much more in the very near future. But what I'm also really concerned about is what's happening to our youth. Well, I fear for myself. I fear just as much for the COVID restrictions that are put on our youth, on our sports, on their social interactions. It's detrimental to their health. And I can't help believe that it's really time that we treat the youth fairly. I think the youth have lost much, much more in the last year than what anybody is really willing to admit. And I think that it's time that we really recognize that their health is in jeopardy. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Rudy.
So I appreciate the comments of my colleagues, and this is a touchy topic for everybody. The decision earlier that we made as council to support the recruitment of health professionals and physicians was an easier one. And there are very few times as municipal leaders that we have to weigh in on a health issue. This year has proven, or 2020 has proven, that we have to consider health in a way that we've never had to before. That said, I do think that there are some challenges faced by businesses of all sizes, but most specifically those that are mom and pop operations, whether you're running a restaurant or a gym, like Councillor Warwa referenced. And I think the long-term effects, like Councillor Barry referred to, in terms of supporting mental health, and mental health covers a range of issues, including dementia and the impact of being isolated. So I think as a community, we have done a lot of very innovative, creative ways to be able to support our community members. And I would consider our goal for 2020 to keep doing that, and making sure that as part of being a welcome, inclusive community, that means that we are considering the needs of everybody, regardless of their financial means. And that means also that we need our business community and our youth to reach out to us and provide suggestions about how better we can support them. I don't think at this time us writing a letter is necessary for a few different reasons, but I also don't necessarily know that that's our best avenue to get what we need at this point. I would consider our mission this year, again, is to keep moving forward in a way that's positive and productive, and making sure that we're meeting the needs, because we have some pockets that we haven't yet supported. And our small businesses, for sure, need to continue to be top of mind for each of us, and make sure that we continue to support our youth and our seniors, and consider the needs of those that are isolated. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you all that spoke on this matter. At this time, like I said, I really don't feel a need for us to write a letter. If I have concerns, it's the difference between urban and rural when it comes to closures. But then again, we know for a fact that we have had COVID here, and we know that we've had some of our citizens end up in large urban areas and the life-saving conditions that were there. So, I mean, there's all kinds of ways to look at things. I mean, if I was the person making the decisions to single out different size municipalities over one, I mean, just base it on numbers alone, it would be tough. I mean, I'm glad that I'm not making those decisions. But overall, what we can say is we're hopefully that moving forward, that the numbers in our area stayed low. And I'd like to see them get back to zero. And I'd like to see the businesses be able to operate and everybody be very respectful of the openings of these businesses and go in and not have to force business owners to look at driver's license or have those difficult decisions to make on their own, because it's not really fair to somebody that's just trying to get back on their feet again, trying to feed their family. So again, it'll be about respect. And I appreciate the letters that were written from they were all fairly rural municipalities that wrote them, felt that their businesses were being treated unfairly. There's always challenges in this situation. And I think that as a municipality, we've done very well to support different parts of our community. And we're here to keep that up until the need is not there. So I think that no matter what, we're not done, but we got to keep the road that we're on. So Councillor Lemko.
Yes, Your Worship. I believe the letters were dated prior to the announcement of the businesses, restaurants, and some places being allowed to open with the last announcement. But I do want to make a comment regarding our community and the businesses and the people. The reason our numbers are going down because we've stayed the course. Our community has done well. And the restrictions that were put into place are showing that those numbers are achievable by staying the course. I want to commend the businesses for not going rogue and going against the restrictions that were implemented as some other places have. And that the citizens are not marching on the streets without their masks demanding something be done. I really think that our community is strong, resilient, and has made it through this. So I want to, again, say good on us, good on the business owners, and we're with you. We'll do the best we can. We've been creative with, having takeout and doing that kind of stuff. So stay the course. We're going to get through this just like we have to this point. That's all I have to say.
Thank you all. Okay, so moving forward, or does anybody else have anything else they want to say in that matter? There's Councillor Waters, Councillor Broadjack. You didn't get a chance to speak on this. You're good, or Councillor Waters?
Won't allow me to speak there. Yeah, mine would be just be echoing everyone and commending our residents here in town and people coming into our town as well. They have been respectful because we have people from surrounding areas coming, doing their shopping and that kind of thing. Even in my own office, everyone has the mask, we're doing the social distancing. So echoing Councillor Lemko there, people aren't going rogue, and that is very important.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if that's it, we'll move on to council reports. And we'll start with Councillor Warwa. Not really reports, it's what you're hearing, sorry.
Okay, I was like, I didn't do a report.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I haven't had a lot other than people honestly on the restrictions asking like what that means and the changes. And I know we're updating that as quick as possible. I do have, obviously there was a lot of questions around minor hockey, but I believe Phil has that within the report, so I can leave that to them there. You know, not a whole lot. I think people are just, there's just a higher level of frustration, but nothing specific. So I don't have anything I have to bring today.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barry.
Yeah, about the only thing that I've heard is a minor confusion between provincial rules and our own town bylaw, and that's about wearing masks. We passed our bylaw on mandatory masks before the provincial government finally put in their regulation on mandatory masks, we had stated 5-year-olds and down didn't need a mask. The provincial says 2. The provincial is now in place, and it would be 2 until they remove that restriction, because it's the provincial that takes precedence over the count. If they were to remove their entire restrictions tomorrow, our bylaw would still be in place. That's the aspect, is that our bylaw actually went in first, but then the provincial government chose to make it more restrictive than us, and have said that anybody under the age of 2 are not required to wear a mask. So I just think there's a little bit of clarity there, that there's a bit of confusion as to, is it the town bylaw, is it the provincial? Well, of course, it's the provincial. Thank you.
Kind of a fine would we have for a 3-year-old? Go to your room. Yeah, I thought about that when they brought theirs in too, but since they supersede us, we don't need to do anything with ours right now. Councilor Rudick.
So I'll just come up with a couple other conversations or questions that came forward. So there was a few councils that have made resolutions regarding the coal restrictions that have changed recently provincially. And so there was a question levied towards Councillor Warwa and myself regarding some of the resolutions that other councils have put forward. And I defer to our water expert, Councillor Barry, but our watershed does originate in that area in the Rocky Mountains. And we haven't had that conversation here, so I'm not sure that we're ready to have that conversation currently. But that question was posed to us to consider making a resolution or writing a letter and directing that towards the provincial government with our concerns about protecting our water, which originates in the Rocky Mountains. The other thing I wanted to mention here is we've got a long time business that is changing hands, and this council has always been very supportive of the Chin's restaurant, which is owned by the Chows. And I just wanted to, in this forum, we don't usually recognize businesses, but I wanted to make sure that the Chow family knew what a stalwart corner business owner they were, and what a corner piece of our downtown they have been for many years. The Chin's family before, when they sold, they were equally important, and the Chow family have really been a key cornerstone business in downtown Vegreville. So just wanted to, in this forum, recognize their participation and acknowledge their moving on to the next phase of their life, and thank them for their participation in Vegreville. And I'll leave some of the conversation that we had with our group yesterday with the mayor and administrative staff from Kolomea. I've found out some more information about the relationship of Vegreville with Kolomea and Stree and where that originated. So we can talk about that at a different format, and look forward to that ongoing conversation.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Brajak.
Okay, I wanted to mention that the Chamber of Commerce is having their AGM next Thursday, February 11th at 11:30 via Zoom. They would like, Michelle, our chamber manager, would like RSVPs the day prior so that she can send out the Zoom link. And special guest speaker, the Shadow Minister of Finance, and the Conservative Shadow Minister of Finance, MP Pierre Poilievre, will be the guest speaker. Again, that's February 11th, 11:30 via Zoom. Contact Michelle at the Chamber of Commerce office, 780-632-2771. And that's about all I have to report.
Okay. Councilor Waters.
Okay, the only thing I'm going to say is I've heard a lot of appreciation, thanks, and I've seen a lot of use of the added trails at the golf course. So thank you to Phil's department for that. There's been a lot of posts, happy people, even though it's been like really cold, people have been out using it. I'm not brave enough for those cold temperatures, but I will be out there soon enough. So yes, thank you, Phil, to your department for helping make that happen. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Lundko.
Yeah, I have the same thank yous from citizens of the community for the golf course. Good on you, Phil. I had one concerned citizen mention the snow between the dental clinic and the post office. That area there with piling up of snow and potential for slip, trip and fall hazards. So someone want to have a look at that. But that's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I've had lots of conversations with a lot of people lately, and had some emails regarding the group that approached me regarding the walking at the golf course, and they wanted to pass on a big thank you to Phil and the rec department for everybody that was involved out there. They're all really happy. Councillor Rudick brought up that we were talking to the new mayor of a region yesterday in Ukraine, and we already had relations with that same region, or that same town, I guess, city. It's a different mayor. They've had elections over there, and so we're looking to bring that back a little bit and have that conversation. And we got some good people that we're trying to put together on a bit of a committee, and there'll be more to come on that. Cliff and myself had a conversation with RCMP today, the one we've been looking forward to for a while. So we're hoping to get some information back on that soon, and a bit of a presentation to council, which will be very nice. Had a conversation with Dale here this morning, and regarding what the summer is going to look like in our town. This town is going to be busy from one end to the other. Like anybody that's in the service industry or selling fuel is going to do very well. There's going to be a ton of construction and a lot of stuff happening in our community, and it's going to be nice to see the community being busy. Hopefully, a lot of the restrictions will be taken down by then, and so some of these businesses that are closed that will be open, and hopefully they'll be able to get a boost out of the economic growth that'll be in town by these work crews and stuff. And hopefully a lot of our local contractors will be working too. So anyway, we are looking forward to that. That's about all I really want to bring up about this time here. I'm very excited to see what happens on the 8th, that the restrictions go through and the numbers in the hospitals come down, and things started, move a little bit back to normal. I would like to be able to have somebody in my house that is a family member that doesn't live here, but I would love to have that relationship come back into our homes again and serve meals to our adult children. It would be awesome. I know they're missing it. So that's what I have. So we'll move on to director highlights. And we'll start with Paul Casey this time.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a whole lot working on audit, as you know. That's going pretty well without finance manager. I think we're in pretty good shape. Hired a replacement for Kayla McCutcheon as the interim utilities clerk, as Kayla went to work for Phil, and so we need to hire a new one. So that's Christina Hoysink. And just give you an update on the grants in place of taxes. The province cut us a check today for $45,000 out of the $994,000 they owe us. So,
wow,
all I got.
It's like the interest.
I said to Cliff, maybe they plan on making bi-weekly payments.
Did you tell them we're not the brick?
I did not.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul, and good luck with the audit.
Thank you.
Next up, Dale Lefebvre.
Thank you, Your Worship. For director highlights, our planning and development business licensing department is looking at what different communities are doing. The phone calls we're getting are businesses that are restricted in their operation or maybe don't want to open because of COVID, even though they're not restricted. And of course, as you know, the business licenses applications have gone out and they will be assigned a penalty come March. So we're going to be looking at bringing something forward with senior administration that we would waive business license non-payment penalties for those companies that are restricted or can't open due to our COVID situation. We've checked into a few other communities and we've got Carstairs who for this business license here just said there'll be no fee for a business license. They still have to get a business license, make sure they're in the right place, doing the right thing, but there's no fee attached to it. And Didsbury is doing about a 6 month from January 1st, 6 months into the year, where they're just going to still control business licenses, but not have a fee associated with them, and then probably prorated at the 6 months mark. But I'm thinking at this point, the calls aren't consuming a lot of our time, but there's some legitimate requests coming in. I think what we'll do is we'll let those ones, we just won't issue any penalties. We'll just let them wait a couple more months or how long it takes till they decide whether they're moving forward or not. Because I understand, the town understands that what position they're in for sure.
Okay, well, I think that we can probably all agree right now that that if you were to bring something to us in 2 months with some data, then we could make a better decision. But I think we'd all agree that for the first 2 months, that we're in no hurry to put any charges or anything on anybody right now that doesn't obtain their license. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, so what we'll do is if you're not sure because you're being restricted as a business, they're not going to pay their business license and we're not going to levy any penalties on it, providing they're not actually running a business, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you get some more data on that deal in a couple of months and then bring it to us. So
Will do for sure. That's all I got on that one.
okay, thank you. Next up, Community Services, Phil Rowe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a number of items on the go. Just give council a heads up. The community co-op community spaces grant was released yesterday out into the public. So in the last couple of days, I've got lots of phone calls from community groups and organizations that are looking at possible community spaces that would fall under this grant. It's anywhere, it funds anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000. This is the same grant that the soccer club received for their soccer fields. So I'm working with some of these groups. They're obviously, this is their grant, not ours, but getting feedback on what some projects that might be available. I received a letter from Vegreville Minor Hockey dated January 31st and receiving formal notification that the VDMHA, that their season has officially been canceled. Just listening in what's happening around the province through AHS, I do not believe the facilities are going to reopen at all before March 1st. Mike Vandertor was just on a call with ARPA and AHS. They're now saying that the arena can be open for school classes. That's it. I'd like to keep, I'd like to get kids to be able to go skate, but I certainly don't know if it's worth to keep the plant running for, the possibilities of schools making their way to the arena for skating. This is up for some council discussion, but I would recommend that we look at shutting off both of our plants, the curling rink and the arena. I don't foresee anything starting before March 1st and the seasons end March 31st. I just don't see it. There's any point in prolonging the inevitable for 1 month that we might be able to use it. So this is open for some council discussion. And I guess just further to that, the fitness center, our fitness center will not open on February 8th. It is, I just learned last night, we did discuss it at SLG, but last night, it is only for one-on-one professional fitness training booking. So we thought they were going to open up to what the previous restrictions were, but it's basically for professional fitness training only. And we do not have a fitness professional trainer. I have had some people pass some concerns to me about the pool. The pool can open for one-on-one lessons on February 8th, which is it's a start. But there are concerns that the pool can't reopen even under the old restrictions where it was just lane swim. It was all booked. We had all the processes in place for COVID mitigation. And I'm wondering if this is something that council would like to lobby to the government for municipal pools. Again, that's going back to no lockers, face masks in common areas. It's private lane swim only. It's all pre-booked. I don't foresee any difference with that than opening up any other business in the community. And it gets our seniors out doing a lane swim. It gets people being active and under the safest conditions possible. So those are two things right now for council discussion first.
So we've received our letter from Vegreville Minor Hockey. The province says that classrooms that, I didn't know this about the way school is. In school, they all stay in their class all day long. The teachers move, not the students. So they're allowed to move as a group. As a class, they're allowed to stay together. So do we want to offer maybe next week, we'll run the ice plan for a week. If there's any classes that would like to take us up and use the ice, they could. Or do we want to shut it off right away? That's the question, basically. Councillor Barry.
Yes, there's still a lot of restriction on what can be done within the schools. They can't hold any actual sports on an actual basis to speak of, but they can have gym classes, but they're even somewhat restricted. I think before we close the plant down, definitely, if classes are permitted to participate and go skating, maybe we should contact schools and see if they're interested in taking advantage of that or not. If not, then I think, yes, it'd be pertinent for us to close them down. I wouldn't want to just close it down and lose the opportunity for the schools to actually do something for a change if they're interested in doing it.
Okay, anybody else thoughts? Councillor Broadjack?
I would agree with Councillor Barry that we need to reach out to the schools. This is really important for our children's mental health. If at all possible that they can get out there, I think we need to keep the rink open. I mean, if it's only for this week or next week, definitely we should keep it open.
Okay, Councillor Lemko, your thoughts?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's open now. It's just they haven't utilized the opportunity to use it. I think we reach out to them, provide them that opportunity and see what their response is. And from there, we make a decision.
Okay, well, the decision will be that we'll pass the invitation out this week and we'll operate for one more week. That's what we're saying. Okay, Councillor Waters, what are your thoughts?
I agree. Reach out to the schools and give them that opportunity as a classroom setting to have the children out there.
And Councillor Rudy.
I think the calls made to the school make sense. I'm not sure that it needs to be with such a strict timeline. They may not be able to mobilize that quickly. There's a lot of things that they've had to adapt with, and as flexible as they are at the school, they do still need to be able to creatively find a way to be able to meet those needs. So if they need more time, I'd be willing to consider that as well, but definitely have that conversation.
So it costs money to operate an ice plant. If we can't get it out to them on Wednesday and have it available for 7 school days, you feel that we should go past that with a timeline?
I would just clarify, we've had the arena open this entire time. And as much as I understand that the cost keeps continuing to add up, I think that in this case, the benefits outweigh the costs. If we could make it usable and accessible to students, why wouldn't we?
Okay, Councilor Worley.
Yeah, I have no problem with us trying to make it accessible to the kids. I do think we do need a little bit of a timeline though, because part of the reason we all know that we held off was because the potential was, had these opened up, there would have been revenue back. So now that we know it can't, and to be very clear, in case any of us haven't seen, obviously I've seen the email because I wrote it, there's no chance minor hockey is opening up, regardless of what is going. So that's one thing that is off the table, which was the biggest revenue base for the arena. Refunds are happening as we speak. It is officially shut down for the year because there's just not enough time left to organize anything in that way. So I have no problem giving them an opportunity to, but I do think we should, potentially we're into February at the very most. I would want to see us say they have the remainder of February even to go, but much past that, we know now there's no revenue opportunity.
Councilor Barry.
Yeah, I could see us going to the end of February to give them a little bit more chance to organize. I don't know how much the high school would be able to take advantage of it other than some of their physical recreational classes, but definitely for the elementary, I think it would be important for them if they can get down to there for a skate. It's an outing. It's something that they're just not getting the opportunity to do. And if it costs a little bit of money, I don't think the taxpayers are going to be too concerned about it.
Okay, so we have 3 now that say that we could go to the end of February. Oh, Councilors Waters, Brodziak, and Lemko, what are your thoughts? Go ahead, Councilor Waters, you're first.
Yeah, I'm good till the end of February because typically we would have the ice out there longer anyways. I know with revenue coming in, but to give the teachers enough time to organize that, end of February is fine with me.
Great. Councilor Lemko?
Yeah, that'd be fine. I would just reach out to them. If there's no appetite on their part, I don't know why we keep it open till the end of February. They got to have an idea if that's even workable for them as administration staff there. So, and the restrictions that might be in place for doing that, that's imposed upon their school boards. So I would reach out, ask them if they're interested, and if they're not, shut her down.
Councilor Brodziak?
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Lemko. If there's no need to keep to keep it open, then we certainly don't have to keep it open up until the end of February. So I think that they definitely need to, I think we need to ask for a decision this week. They don't need to mobilize this week, but definitely they can make a decision this week.
Okay, is it clear as mud to you, Phil?
Yeah, well, good.
What was the other question?
All right,
for-
so what about the curling rink?
Did you speak to anybody from curling?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. You broke up.
Did you speak to anybody in the Heather Curling Club?
No, I have not at this point.
Okay, well, maybe get a hold of Anita tomorrow and let her know that we'll be closing the plant down. because adults cannot go there. I mean, if there was a school teacher that wanted to take their class there, but we only have one teacher in the whole of town that has anything really to do with curling anymore. Well, two, I guess. One at the Comp and one at St. Mary's, but it just,
I don't believe the school would be allowed to curl because they can't meet the restriction guidelines. With the skating, there still has to be kept space in between the people, and that can't be met with curling. So
okay, get a hold of the president of the Heather Curling Club tomorrow and let them know what our decision is moving forward with the ice. Okay.
right, and so I want to discuss with council the potential renovation on the main floor for economic development. I know, Your Worship, it's been discussed between yourself, Cliff, and myself about it. So just to inform council, we have put some preliminary plans in place to turn the old, or I guess the current council chambers into economic development office and a small boardroom specific to economic development. We would be looking at an approximate cost of $35,000 for the renovation. This is an unbudgeted item and it would require approval from council. If council so wishes to proceed, I would have very detailed information as part of an RCD on Monday with plans in place. So this is open for some discussion.
Okay, I'll just give a little bit of background on this, where we're using all of our grant money that we were allocated for the upstairs renovations at the town hall, the new council chambers in the back. And while we have a construction crew in the building, so we just reached out just to put up a couple of walls and cut in a couple of windows and doors. And we have a line on some used furniture right now that would fill our needs for that room. And at this cost, there would be a large storage area where the original seating was, because that's all poured cement and raised there. But just moving forward with what we expect out of economic development in the next couple of years, trying to attract new businesses to our new industrial park. We're going to be having meetings taking place with potential investors, and just having a room to go to that's dedicated, that there'll be drawings on the wall of the park and future plans and stuff. It just made sense to take advantage of the situation where we're at right now, where all the other money that we were used to renovate the town hall, most of it or all of it came from a grant. And to finish this off and then all the renovations are done, it just made sense. So what we're really looking for right now is support that we would go into reserves up to $35,000 and let the drawings, the preliminary drawings have been done. Discussions have taken place with the contractor, but Phil just needs to know if we are willing to go any further, that by Monday he would have conceptual drawings of how it all would look and lay out within the building. Councillor Barry.
Well, I'll be quick to jump on it and say that we'll soon be able to have new facilities for the council, and I'd hate to see the old area just sit there. I think it's a good idea to showcase economic development. Jokingly, currently the office is a little bigger than a broom closet.
It was a broom closet.
So I think that it would be a very good idea to complete it all right now. I would support it.
Okay. Councillor Rohrer, you were next.
Yeah, I actually reiterate the same thing. I think that this is in no way a big cosmetic or frivolous item. It's literally makes sense for setup. So I'm in agreement with this.
Okay, Councillor Lemko, you're next.
Yes, Your Worship. Now's the time to proceed with this. I think we identified before that economic development needed some additional space. The contractors are in the building. They're there doing the work. The building is basically under lockdown through the COVID, so there's not a lot of traffic in there. Now would be a prudent time to do that. If we're doing construction, I wholeheartedly support that.
Okay, Councillor Waters.
Yes, I'd be in support of this as well. It's important to have a proper space for meetings for investors to come into as well. Perception is huge. Like the broom closet would probably not be very appealing to these large investors that we're trying to attract. So, and as Councillor Lemko said, the contractors are there already. So part of the savings and the cost would be there, I believe, as well. So yes, I do support this.
Okay, Councillor Brodja.
Yes, I would support this as well. And I like the location of the office. The first office you see when you first walk into the building, I think that would be definitely appropriate for an economic development office.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rudick.
I think all the reasons why it makes sense were voiced very well by my colleagues. The only things that I would add to that is the integration of economic development in amongst all of our other operations is ideal. We met early on in this mandate of this council to ensure that every department is thinking of economic development as they're making their decisions. So this is great. The other thing I would say is our future potential considerations of using that space might want to look at the upcoming economic development manager just to make sure that that's a flex working space in a modern way that will be usable so that we can use it for potential business meetings and also be reactive in the way that we should be. So if it's a smart design in the room and making sure that it's wired for whatever we need it for, now is the time to do it.
Yeah, so I guess, Phil, you can go ahead and get that RCD ready for Monday and get the contractor to finish those drawings. There's just a couple little hiccups. The audio visual hookups, what's the term I'm looking for? Whatever.
The computer cables.
Yeah, so whatever, make sure that that's all in place. And I think once everybody sees the layout, you'll be quite impressed for the small amount of money we're spending and the wow factor that we're going to get out of this is going to, and when you first walk in the building, a large, first thing you'll see when you look to that side will be a large window looking in on in a room that has some historic meaning to this town. But when people are coming to talk about investing in our community, we'll be able to showcase that room. Plus, you know, whatever the development is and where it'll fit within the project, and we'll be able to set it up very well. So, okay. Thank you. What else you got, Phil?
That's all I have today, Your Worship.
Okay, well, that's a lot. So now manager's next.
Okay. Attended a meeting with RCMP and his worship this morning. We'll talk about that later. I had a follow-up meeting to the MLA on the ISIP grant funding. Subsequent to the MLA meeting, I had discussions with Municipal Affairs regarding the preliminary engineering costs for the ISIP grant. The ISIP grant does not include any provision for preliminary engineering costs prior to the grant approval. And our grant approval date was August 20th, 2020. So the MLA called after discussing this item with Municipal Affairs and informed me that the stipulation in the ISIP grant is a federal requirement. And her recommendation is that the town advocate the federal government on this issue. So I will leave that with council to think over. Okay. The second item I followed up with from the MLA meeting was the grant in place of taxes. I know Paul had touched on it earlier. I prepared a schedule grant in place of taxes, complete with the tax roll, addresses, locations, and the outstanding amount. So, and ours was in the 990,000 range, but they made a $45,000 payment. So on the ISIP grant, the first installment payment was requested and filed on January 22nd, and that took cost to Alberta Seniors in Housing had reviewed the town's affordable housing agreement file and noted that an amended agreement was required, and it had to do with a name change. The amended agreement was signed by all the parties involved and returned to the ministry. So we are now in receipt of a fully executed amended agreement. Just a paper trail on the provincial end, but just in case further correspondence comes on it, you'll be informed. And I have 2 items for the closed session.
Okay. So we got the meeting with Elk Island Catholic School Board tomorrow at 2. A regular meeting on Friday the 8th. Family Day. Who's in charge of Family Day? Mr. Barry, are we going to be putting something together or what?
Just quickly, it has been confirmed through health that no breakfast is possible. We cannot, nor can anybody else, use the facility there to cook and serve a breakfast. So there will be no breakfast this year. The other matters is I'll be talking with Anya a little bit more. Yes, I think we'll be trying to do something to
positive message.
Community. And then Emma is working diligently with her committee, and she has a number of things. I won't speak for her. I got an update just today about some things that have been planned, and her and I will be doing the taping of Talk of the Town this Thursday, and that'll air on Monday morning, and then we'll probably be in a position to be able to say more about Family Day in the community. It's just very unfortunate that council will not be able to do a breakfast this year.
Okay, so when you say nobody can do breakfast,
yeah.
Don't tell Kathy that, because I need my breakfast. So.
All right. Nobody can use a town facility to cook the breakfast to serve the public.
Excellent. So our regular meetings are in here as stuff coming up, but is anybody registered for Brownlee yet? Sandra, are we doing it on our own? Is Sandra taking care of it, or how are we working this?
Everybody that has notified me has been registered, and you should have received your confirmation emails.
I haven't decided.
Well, you'd be going to the February 18th one because this 11th is full.
Oh, the 11th wasn't Brownlee though, was it? Oh, was? Oh, okay. Okay, so that's it for the regular meeting. Cliff has 2 items for closed session. So I would take a motion to go into closed session, please. Thank you, Councilor Worra.